Bain's part of a handful of prospects who can get after the passer, who we expect to go in round one, Matt. But there is debate about the best in class in that group. Who is your top pass rusher, and what's a comp you like for him?
Yeah, it is Rueben Bain for me at the top of the class, and my comp was an easy one. Sometimes they're organic like this. It's Jared Verse with the Los Angeles Rams. When we're thinking about power rushers who can play over the offensive tackle or on the outside shoulder of them, it's that speed to power ability that Rueben Bain Jr. has. Sure, there's going to be conversation about a lack of arm length, but what about power? He gets inside the hands of offensive tackles and is able to impact them with this power through his arms, his hands, his hips. He plays with great natural leverage, but then when he has to play with speed around the edge, he does that too. Jared Verse coming out of Florida State was this same player where we had conversations about can he win with speed, but you love the power, you love the technique, and that has made him a really good young rusher in the NFL. And then there's the alignment versatility that both players had. Rueben Bain was listed at 6'3", 275 pounds. We'll see this week where he actually comes in at. Is he a little bit higher than 275? If so, there's going to be a conversation about kicking him inside. But like Jared Verse, again, same conversation coming out of Florida State. Will he play inside? Will he play outside? He has made a living on the outside for the LA Rams and has, again, been one of the bright spots for that defense as they reloaded to get back to the postseason, to get back to being a Super Bowl contender.
And if you're any of these prospects, replicating Verse's 31 reps on bench and a 40 in the 4.5s would not hurt your draft stock. Mel, when you hear Matt's explanation of Bain, best pass rusher in the class, where do you stack him up?
Still a great college player, no question about it. Talking about the hand usage, the angles he takes to the quarterback. The important part's going to be the measurables. Draft numbers you talk about moving forward in terms of athletic numbers, 40 time, arm length. He's going to be just a great college player with not so great pro potential. We'll find that out at the Combine Pro Day. David Bailey, to me, is the best pass rusher. You think about what he did at Stanford. He was a good player. He became a great player at Texas Tech this past year. He had 14.5 sacks in 3 years at Stanford. He equaled that number this season. The burst off the edge that he has, plays with intensity for 60 minutes. This kid took his performance to a completely new level with the Red Raiders. He's the proven entity this year. You can say he's kind of a one-year wonder, but it was a great year for David Bailey. He, in my opinion, is the best pass rusher. Love Rueben Bain, but those athletic numbers are going to be critical to see if he can take what he did at Miami and translate that to success at the pro level.
Well, Mel, if we're just strictly talking about the best pure pass rusher in this year's draft, I'm going to go to Bain's teammate and Akeem Mesidor. Yes, I understand he's going to be a 25-year-old rookie. And yes, I know he's 2 years removed now from the foot injuries that he did suffer. But even going back to his days at West Virginia and now at Miami, he is just a pass rushing menace. That's something that you want to see out of that position. He can win with power. He can win with bend around the edge. He has those violent swipes that you can win with. And I look at teams like 15 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 17 to the Detroit Lions, and even 19 to the Carolina Panthers. All those teams are looking to be in win-now situations that need that rusher right away. We know Mesidor is going to walk through the door being ready right away.
Yeah, and I think when I go back to Rueben Bain, it's like he's a boxer with that hand violence. And again, no one was better. All these players are great. No one was better rushing the quarterback throughout the college football playoff when you're actually going best against best. He fueled that Miami Hurricanes team to the national championship game against Indiana. And I think that matters, that lasting impression that he had those final 4 games. That's huge for me when evaluating him.
A lot of edge rushers we should and could see come off the board on day one. One name not mentioned yet, Ohio State linebacker Arvell Reese, who said he would prefer to be an edge rusher rather than seen as an off-ball linebacker. And Reese spoke with our Kimberly Martin today about what he wants to prove in Indy.
Just to showcase my ability. You know, I think I'm a pretty athletic guy, and it's just good to showcase that here. I think I just got to be myself. I really just see me, so I'm not focused on separating myself from nobody, but just focused on being the best me, and right now I feel good.
Matt, when you're evaluating Reese, what are the upside and the traits that could see him go as high as number 2 overall?
Yeah, he certainly could. And I think we have to remember he was a known commodity before this season, but the move to putting him as an edge rusher, Matt Patricia kicking him outside and saying, hey, here's 100 pass rush snaps, go get the quarterback, that elevated his stock to where it is now as potentially the number 2 overall player in this class. We're all fascinated with the idea that we want that Micah Parsons or Abdul Carter type speed around the edge. Reese showed that this past year. 6.5 sacks, some of those coming still from the middle linebacker position as a blitzer, but he showed enough bend, enough hip roll ability, length, and strong hands that makes you think this guy could potentially be a double-digit sack player in the NFL. Now, there's still work to be done. Whichever team drafts him will need to develop Arvell Reese, but that's why we're now talking about a player where maybe in August we thought Anthony Hill Jr. from Texas would be this hybrid linebacker. Reese actually became that guy really starting in week 1 against Texas and carried it all the way through the season.
He really did. Against Texas, against Arch Manning, he had a delayed blitz from that off-ball position, got that sack against Arch, and he had 6.5 sacks over the first 8 games. Those final 6 games, no sacks. Had he kept that momentum through the year and finished strong, there would have been no question he's the second pick in the draft. With his pass rush potential. But you see a guy, limited opportunities, but certainly the talent's there. Can he be a Micah Parsons? You're going to have to roll the dice, and he possibly can. At worst, though, he's an off-ball linebacker. That has great value as well. So that's why Arvell Reese, with that dual versatility, is so highly rated, despite only having that one great year at Ohio State. When he wasn't leading tackler, it was Sonny Styles, had 13 more tackles than Arvell Reese. Like I said, over the last 6 games, no sacks, but the talent, the potential is in abundance with Arvell Reese.
And all you hear is there's a lack of blue chip talent at the top of this year's draft. Well, we're staring one in the face right now in Arvell Reese, and I'm with you guys. We're enamored with what he showed last year, but you fall even more in love of what he could be as an edge rusher. And if I had say in the draft room, I would try to sell the GMs and everybody else in there on what he could be. You hear the names Micah Parsons, Abdul Carter, and the transition that they made from off-ball linebacker to edge rusher. I say a similar type of plan for Arvell Reese of where you could play him off-ball initially, but then you slowly start to transition him to that edge rusher position of where he can be that dynamic and show those dynamic traits that we saw during Ohio State's impressive defense this past season.
Back here on NFL Draft Daily with a developing story from the Combine. Our senior NFL insider Adam Schefter reports former Penn State quarterback Drew Allar will throw at the Combine this weekend. Allar suffered a season-ending ankle injury in October. Allar was the number 2 overall pocket passer in the 2022 recruiting class, number 51 player overall, and waited a year behind Sean Clifford before taking over as starter at Penn State. Closed out his career with the highest completion percentage in program history and ranked 3rd behind Clifford and Trace McSorley for the most career passing touchdowns in Happy Valley. Back here with Matt, Jordan, and Mel. Mel Kiper, the prototypical size and arm on Allar, that is not why he slipped from preseason mocks that saw him could go in the top 10 at that point. What is your reaction to the news that Allar will throw in Indianapolis?
Glad to see it, Phil. The accuracy he's going to have to show, but he's the LTP. There are really 2 that are looked apart quarterbacks. Drew Allar and Taylon Green at Arkansas, okay? Accuracy issues with both. Drew Allar in 2024, right? Final 4 games, Big Ten championship and the 3 playoff games was at 53%. This year, even against Villanova earlier in the year, I'm watching that game, he's at 55%. An interception, inconsistent accuracy in the first half. Oregon game, he's at 56%. UCLA game, he's lighting it up. Then he's injured with the ankle against Northwestern. The talent's in abundance, 6'5", 235. He is effortless, making challenging NFL throws, right? But the accuracy comes and goes. He's got mobility. He's an athlete. He wants to be great. He will go in there and he will work hard. So he's one of those quarterbacks. You get him at the right point in the draft and develop him, see what you got, fine. But you can't take him too early because he just wasn't consistent enough, Matt, in terms of his accuracy.
No, you're absolutely right. And he needs to find whomever Josh Allen worked with in that gap between Wyoming and the Buffalo Bills because you got to fix the feet. That was the problem with Drew Allar. We waited for 2 years because the traits were so good to see if he would develop the accuracy, if the decision making would get better. And it didn't. And I think the injury is part of that. Maybe we would have seen him turn the corner late this year as he got more comfortable in another new offensive scheme. But you got to fix the footwork with Drew Allar. I am intrigued by the arm talent. I am intrigued by the athletic ability that he brings to the table, but he's not in the first round conversation for me. He's not in the second round conversation. I think round 3 is where he can probably get himself this week with good interviews and a good on-field workout. But I'm always going to applaud guys that come here and work out and are willing to compete against the rest of the quarterbacks in this class.
Jordan, sounds like phone lines are open in the 305. If Miami were open in earnest to move on from Tua, should they look at this class as QB2, Alabama's Ty Simpson at 11 overall?
Well, I think 11 is just way too early for Ty Simpson. I see him more so as a mid to late first round or early day 2 quarterback in this year's class. And you have to remember, Ty Simpson only has 15 career starts. And if you go back to early September all the way through early November, he legitimately could have been the first quarterback off of the board. But some injuries happened. The run game at Alabama dwindled, and the receivers had some inconsistent moments as well. Doesn't have overwhelming physical traits. The son of a coach, so you know he is very smart as well. But when I look at somebody like Ty Simpson, he needs proper surroundings around him. Miami does have some semblance of that, but I just don't think they're in the situation right now of where they need to take a quarterback, especially at 11 overall. I would look to go offensive tackle, somebody like Monroe Freeland out of Georgia, whose stock has skyrocketed. Even Spencer Fano out of Utah, I think he's somebody else, opposite of Patrick Paul, that you want to drop a quarterback in eventually. I just think this year is too early.
Yeah, 11's rich for me on Ty Simpson. He's ranked number 40 on my board right now. And sure, we've seen teams like Denver reach for Bo Nix, and that has worked out. But they had the infrastructure in place, and they hired Sean Payton, who's a Hall of Fame coach. That certainly helps things as well. Miami's just not there yet. I think Miami's maybe a team that gets involved in the quarterback mix in free agency with Malik Willis, someone that Coach Hafley and John Eric Solon are very familiar with, coming from Green Bay, where he's been the backup quarterback to Jordan Love. 11 overall for Ty Simpson is just something I'm not sure I'm going to get on board with. And I don't know that any throwing against air, at the NFL Combine is going to change that when we look at a smaller quarterback with 15 starts. The list of quarterbacks who've started under 20 games in their college career to be good in the NFL, it's basically Cam Newton, who has some of the most elite physical traits we've ever seen at the position. Ty Simpson, at maybe 6'2", 208 pounds, is just not checking those same boxes that Cam Newton did.
Well, you guys are the quarterback skeptics. I'll tell you that. Look at a guy like Ty Simpson. They think he can be a franchise quarterback. You take him at 11. I'm with you, though. The needs on the O-line, secondary, wide receiver, certainly Malik Willis. So you brought that up, Matt. The connection with the GM now comes to Miami, knowing Malik Willis the way he does. He was a third-rounder coming out of Liberty. Kenny Pickett went in the first round. We had Malik Willis ahead of Kenny Pickett. So at the end of the day, you're talking about a steal in the third round. Then he moves on. He becomes that so-called journeyman. And guess what? In Green Bay, you showed big-time promise. So if you can go the Malik Willis route, then you can use that pick one, an O-lineman like Maui Noah from Miami. You mentioned Freeling, or a corner like Mansour Delane, or a wide receiver. So I think the critical part is going to be, do they attack it in terms of free agency, or if he's there, Simpson, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do.
Let's rip through the prospects we're most excited to see on the field. And Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I want to see Keldrick Falk, the big defensive lineman from Auburn, listed at 6'6", 285 pounds. The questions will be, which position will he play in the NFL? He needs to show quickness here. He needs to show burst. We're going to be looking at the 3-cone time, 40-yard dash, vertical jump to see some of that lower body explosiveness. Falk is a player that could be in range of the top 15 pick if he tests well enough. He's just 20 years old, guys. Doesn't turn 21 until September. So he's a high character player with a ton of potential. Testing time will matter for Falk, though.
Yeah, man, I'm going to go with Anthony Hill Jr., the linebacker out of Texas. He's somebody that's gotten a bit lost in the shuffle in this loaded linebacker class. He's very explosive, really consistent in pass coverage, but where he's going to bring value right away is when he's allowed to play forward as a linebacker that really can attack straight ahead. Somebody at Texas that was very highly touted, a huge 5-star recruit when he was coming in. So I look for him to put up some really good numbers, Mel.
I look for great football players who are also freaks, and Sonny Styles led Ohio State in tackles this year. Former safety. He was about 225 to 230 as a safety. Now he's 6'4", 245. Big, fast, athletic, strong. I say former safety. Had a great year, cut down dramatically between 2024 and 2025 on the missed tackles. He is really coming into his own, developing as an off-ball linebacker. I tell you, he can spy the quarterback. He's at 7 to Washington in terms of my mock 2.0. This kid is soaring up draft boards, and I tell you, he is a guy, like I say, a freakish talent. Should have a great workout on the heels of one heck of a season with the Buckeyes.
And so many of those highlights we saw from him from the Cotton Bowl, those are not September games against lesser competition. Mel, as these guys take the field tomorrow, what are some benchmarks that scouts really care about?
Well, I think in terms of the 40 times for these guys coming off the edge, like a Rueben Bain Jr., you don't want to see the 4.75. You want to see him have a 40 time that will translate to success in the NFL. Those athletic numbers we talk about, right? And I'm big on arm length, guys. For defensive linemen, certainly for offensive linemen, for edge rushers. Cassius Howell from Texas A&M. What's his arm length going to be? Think about Peter Woods, same type of thing, but it's not as important arm length for DTs. Peter Woods did not have a great year production-wise. He should have phenomenal workout numbers. He is one of those guys that has freakish numbers across the board for the Clemson Tigers. Unfortunately, it didn't translate to the production, but I think teams will roll the dice on Peter Wood somewhere in that top 15 of the draft, particularly if he has a great workout, which we expect.